Content warnings for Nikki is mention of cannibalism, violence, and an unhealthy relationship.
I promise you, right? Despite that, it's surprisingly not that downbeat. But it's part of my PhD. Now I can finally say that. And it's called I Live in the Nymph. Oh, it's a love story. Wendy looks at the two men on the screen, staring at each other. The glint in one's eyes fearfully reflected in the other. At once, they jump. Wendy can't help sneaking a side glance at Freya. I see. Freya was right. This is a masterpiece. There's probably a lot of artistical reasons she knows nothing about, but she knows everything is working together in the pursuit of beauty. Freya said that. The camera closes in on Max Mikkelsen biting a chunk of flesh out of his opponent's neck. The blood spills in slow motion, each droplet too perfect to not be the result of a computer. The man falls on his knees, and the camera moves to a panoramic shot. It's perfect, beautiful, like no Renaissance painting she's ever seen. Against a dark, stormy sky, the man kneels, arms dangling at his sides, his shoulders arched, and his head thrown back. Black dragon wings behind him. He's not a man anymore. He's a fountain. Blood is spraying from his neck, from the gash in his stomach, from everywhere. She's never been much interested in art, but one of Freya's favourite paintings comes to mind, Wander Above the Sea of Fog. She can't help but think of Freya as her own personal definition of sublime. She's entirely focused on the screen now, where a bright orange flame is burning, and it gives her face a golden glow. They watch the rest of it in silence, even the credits. Wendy knows that Freya loves the song they put at the end. The screen had been black for a few minutes when Freya squeezed her hand. So? I loved it. You were absolutely right. She raised an eyebrow. As always. Isn't it the best love story? Wendy thinks about the two men plummeting off a cliff. I'd have rather they managed to escape together. Freya shakes her head while she taps. All the best love stories end in tragedy, and the look she casts Wendy is too meaningful to only be about a telly series. It's burning a hole to her soul. She has to lower her eyes. It's a dramatic take on love helping you become the real you, but I love it. What do you mean? Wendy doesn't usually have much to add to Freya's rambling about art, literature, history, but she could have quietly listened to her talk all night. I mean, that's usually interpreted as the best you. Like, maybe a grumpy old man obsessed with his career, and then he goes and becomes friendly, loves children, animals, or whatever you. Point is, he becomes a stereotypically better, and here she makes bingo finger quotes gesture, person because of love. Except, it doesn't say anywhere that the most authentic version of you is also a better you. The real you could very well be a cannibalistic serial killer. And you know what? That's okay. Satisfied, she punctuates the last sentence with a zwig from the pink strawberry daiquiri on the table. Which I have. Props. When she brings the bottle to her lips, the overhead light catches her naked forearm. The sweat on her refined muscle glints like diamonds. Without knowing why, probably influenced by the cannibals on the screen, she finds herself transfixed under her arm. Her eyes trace the faint outline of her ulna, the light blue vein running under the skin, the tendons at the base of her wrist, the skin, white and pale. Wendy sees herself grabbing that ulna so tightly that little red bruises show up on the skin, the bone pressing under her fingertips. In a series of stilled images, she bites down on that vein, her teeth are tearing the flesh, blood explodes in her mouth, hot and metallic. Tasty. She's crouching on the table, Freya's forearm held firmly between her hands, blood all over her face, flesh between her teeth. Still chewing, she looks up into those bright green eyes. Her mouth is watering. With a difficult swallow, Wendy moves her attention to the countertop. The cold dark granite seems to offer no inspiration for unsettling daydreaming. And Freya's looking at her like she's meant to say something. I don't know how many murderous cannibals will find someone willing to put up with that. In real life, I mean. Why? Would that stop you? Wendy's about to say that she doesn't know, she's never been in love, but she's heard of people divorcing for 4 or less. Only it's not necessary because Freya goes on without waiting for a reply. Besides, it doesn't matter. Fiction's not any less real than reality. Paired in the kitchen stall, Freya looks like a figment of her imagination. Only makes sense she'd say something like that. She's about to make a joke about red-haired fairies in her kitchen, when it turns out she's only paused to take a breath. Passionate and slightly drunk, she's an unstoppable avalanche of words. Once it's all been acted out and you can see it on the screen, your perception of it is the same as your perception of reality. Yes, okay, I hear what you're about to say. What about the other senses? But would you say a security footage is any less real just because you can't touch it, smell it, or taste it? When you can think of at least a few reasons in why a security footage is different from a teleseries, but all she ends up saying is, I kind of want steak. Freya's laugh is the happiest sound she's ever heard. It comes out of her almost by surprise. She feels like she's just said the funniest thing ever. You know what? Hannibal always makes me crave steak too. You can't discount the inherent romanticism of attempted murder. Freya's discarded her cutlery a while ago, and now, half-eaten steak bun in her hand, she's gesticulating in between bites. To Wendy, he had a unique and irresistible charm, the way in which she could be a savage and a philosopher at the same time. Does that mean you wouldn't mind if I draw blood? No, of course not, but I'd be a bit dubious, like, are you meant to tell proper attempted murder from flirty attempted murder? Fletcher scratches her cheek, adding to the myoglobin already smeared there. Wendy wants to lick it off. She takes another sip of her cocktail instead, much more safe. Upside down on the couch, her legs hooked over the headrest and her head hanging over the floor, Wendy looks at the bong. He stands on the coffee table like he belongs there, matty pink with blue flowers. Wendy hadn't expected his night to end with a bong on her table and Freya looking down on the rug. But she said they might as well make it a party, just for the two of them. Every time she moves her hair gently swings from side to side, and the blood rushes to her ears. Freya's still talking about relationships and boundaries and lying, and there's a lot of rambling there. And Wendy's entirely not sure that they're still following the same train of thought. And he was just so nice. Like, I mean, the most respectful person ever. I used to have this diary, right? And I could write whatever I wanted about him in there. I mean, I could have been planning his murder for all I knew. And he'd never know, because he'd never rip my stuff. That's nice. Wendy stretches her arms over her head and plants her palms on the floor. Everything's a bit crooked from upside down. To be fair, not entirely sure why, but somehow they always used to hurt me. Wendy's sure that Freya knows exactly why that bothered her. But she doesn't say anything. She will get there on her own. I guess it's like, do you know when you see something super cute and sometimes you just want to squish it really, really hard? I think it's got something to do with possession and obsession. Lots of essence. Of course, like, don't you want to know everything about me? My deepest thoughts and secrets? Don't you crave all-encompassing knowledge of your beloved? It might be because she's drunk. It might be because she's stoned, or it might just be because it's Freya the one saying it. But Wendy's now absolutely convinced that breach of privacy is a sign of true love. It all makes sense now. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with me that long.